Thank you for finding the time.
I will admit, it's not entirely unpleasant seeing you again. A lot of time has passed. By the look of it, you've come up in the world.
I could say the same about you.
The mayor serves his city. I can see you're not entirely convinced.
Can you blame me? I can't shake the feeling that you're gaming the system.
Why did you stop being a vigilante?
The line was crossed.
It's hard to come to terms with a violent nature. Hating the power it has over us.
This city can't go unchecked.
Sometimes peace needs to be broken. And chaos must reign.
Am I putting the hatchet down? I was raised to believe in grace. But I was also raised to believe in retribution.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel dropped the Daredevil Born Again trailer, so we'll break it all down. There's a whole bunch of footage here. Peak is back. This looks like it's going to be amazing. Probably one of the best things that Marvel has done in a good long while. There's a bunch of Easter eggs here, particularly for the MCU movies. We got a little bit of that during the Netflix era of all the Defenders shows, but now we just get it way, way more. Charlie Cox actually made a big thing about this when he knew that he was coming back for the actual series. I know there'll be a ton of questions about him being in Spider-Man 4 just because it seemed like they were hyping that up. I'll try to address that during the video too. This is mostly local to what's happening just during the Daredevil series though. And they've already renewed the show for season 2. They'll be filming that this year and releasing it next year. Marvel is finally getting to the point where they're going to be releasing TV series once per year and planning series to have multiple seasons before they actually start filming them. So if you're brand new to the channel, I'll be doing videos for all the episodes just like I did for the classic Daredevil Netflix episodes, the other Defenders series too, because all the Defenders are slowly eventually coming back. Punisher is just the first big one that's coming back during this series. Be sure to subscribe to get everything, because we will start getting those episodes really soon. But this is meant to be a longer version of the original leaked trailer from way back around Comic-Con D23 with brand new footage, and they cut the trailer in a completely different way, which I was really happy about. A lot of times when stuff like that happens, they'll just release the old trailer that you've already seen a billion times. Hopefully they don't do the exact same thing when they release the Fantastic Four trailer, like we've already seen that old trailer a bunch of times, recut it, put some new footage in there. But the way they start this, he's actually in the middle of his fight with Muse in Muse's lair. In the background, no, you can actually see a couple shots of his artwork too. Muse is actually from the relatively recent Daredevil comics. The whole idea is that he's this deranged person who's trying to take down what he sees as corrupt officials like judges, police in the city, around New York City. But as Daredevil mentions in the trailer here to Kingpin, Muse is one of those characters that crosses the line in a way that you're not supposed to. So one of the reasons why you see Daredevil and Kingpin meeting in the diner there is because it's been a while since they've actually seen each other, and Daredevil has stopped being Daredevil at night because, as he says, he crossed a line a couple years ago. I think it's a couple years ago. They don't say exactly how long it's been. But the implication is that he accidentally killed someone, and he felt like that was crossing a line for him, so he needed to stop. Kingpin has become mayor as of them meeting here, like he's talking about serving the city, like a mayor should serve his city. But it seems like there'll be some flashbacks in the series to explain what has happened and show you the past, like show him running for mayor. That's also from the relatively recent Devil's Reign era in the comics too. Mayor Kingpin. But the way that Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio explain their characters when this picks up is that they essentially called a truce and decided to stay in their own lanes, is the way that they described it. Daredevil continuing to be a lawyer advocating for people, and Kingpin just trying to be an actual good mayor. But I think the implication, the way they're talking about the series, is that the Muse villain sort of brings out their darker selves, and they start to manifest, as you see during the trailer, where like Kingpin is taking someone down inside his room, while Daredevil also starts taking people down, putting the red mask on his head. Also him in the full-on brand new costume fighting Muse in his lair. This is actually from a much later episode, though. This whole Muse fight is from a much later episode. One interesting detail you probably spotted, when Kingpin is fighting here, the painting next to him is wrapped in a snowstorm from the very first episodes of Daredevil Netflix series that he bought from Vanessa that led to their eventual relationship. And the reason why there's blood on it is because at the very end of the Daredevil Netflix series, like Daredevil Season 3, his blood got on it during his fight with Daredevil. So it feels like a very Kingpin twisted kind of thing psychologically that he didn't get the painting cleaned up and he just considers his blood on the painting part of this big metaphor, and because of the way it sits here in this room, he basically has to look at it all the time like it is always right next to him. Does that not feel like the most Kingpin obsessive compulsive kind of thing for him to do? Like the painting has taken on new meaning for him after the end of Daredevil Season 3. You also notice that underneath the table, where you see their legs touching each other, you can see the ring on his finger. That's because all of Daredevil Netflix is meant to be canon to what's happening during Daredevil Born Again. The way that the Marvel TV people and Kevin Feige have talked about the whole canon of it all is that for the most part, it's all canon, with maybe like a few minor things that they won't reference quite as much. Like they haven't quite got to the point where they're referencing the Dragon Bones under New York City from the Defender series, but for the most part, all the other Netflix Defender series are meant to be canon. We'll eventually see Jessica Jones. We'll probably even see Iron Fist show up in some way. And the actor who plays Luke Cage, Mike Coulter, seems really busy, but he did say that he would eventually love to come back if he has the opportunity to. Case in point, too, there's a bunch of Easter eggs in the background here, but one of the Easter eggs is for Harlem's Paradise, the club from the Luke Cage Netflix series. So like they're directly referencing stuff from the other Netflix series. So I wouldn't be surprised if we also see references to the other Netflix series like Jessica Jones references, Luke Cage references, Iron Fist references, obviously Punisher references. But part of the idea is that they're slow rolling on that. Season 1 is mostly just Punisher coming back. Season 2, we might see Jessica Jones come back. Supposedly Elektra also filmed some scenes, so I think Elektra will also come back at some point too. When Kingpin says it's not entirely unpleasant seeing you again, part of the idea is that they are kind of wistful, kind of nostalgic for their days as vigilantes and the villain that he used to be, like the person that he used to be before he became mayor. Like they've grown complacent in their roles now and their darker selves are starting to slowly manifest and push their way up to the surface again. When he says a lot of time has passed, that's also meant to be a metaphor in real life about a lot of time since the end of Daredevil Season 3. Like, it's been a long time since we did those Netflix episodes. But you also see what looks kind of like a flashback with Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. I think this is actually meant to be from Episode 1. This might have something to do with the reason why he took the Daredevil costume off. Something might happen to, say, like Foggy Nelson. I don't know if they're going to kill him or make Daredevil think that he's dead or he almost dies, and that's how he almost crosses the line. But the way they cut the footage, doesn't it make it seem like one of his closest friends gets killed by some villain, and that's what causes him to either kill the villain or try to kill the villain, and that's him crossing the line. As far as I can tell, Karen Page, though, should be safe. I don't think they're going to try and kill her during the series. The woman you see Matt dancing with and getting it on with in the shower is meant to be Heather Glenn from the Daredevil comics. I think the idea is that he's with her when he's not with Karen Page, when their relationship is on the rocks. The way that Charlie Cox explained it is that by the present day of the series, their relationship is deteriorated, I think because of all the bad stuff that happened that caused him to take off the costume in the first place. When they show Kingpin coming up in the world, so to speak, like they show him in Times Square in New York City addressing all the people that voted for him, there's a whole bunch of MCU Easter eggs. They have the Steve Rogers musical that we saw during the Hawkeye series. There's a Happy New Year logo from Pim Van Dyne, which was her company during Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania, like she'd taken over her father's company. And I think the idea is that a lot of the hats here show Kingpin's logo on it, like Fisk can fix it, which I think is meant to be a reference to the Joe Fix-It plumber metaphor from Politics a couple years ago. And I think this is meant to be right after he wins the election for the first time. So this is something of a flashback, and this is like his first big address to the city. Like, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to fix New York City. And part of the idea is that he runs for politics because this is after the snap, and he's like, I know how to fix New York City, because he's Kingpin, so of course he thinks he can fix New York City. This person drawing the Kingpin mural on the building is meant to be the Muse villain. I think the idea is that he eventually targets Kingpin. And if it wasn't clear, even though you typically think of Kingpin as the main villain of Daredevil series, Muse is meant to be the actual main villain of this series. I think part of the idea is that Kingpin and Daredevil have to find a way to work together to take him down. That's one of the big twists that we didn't see during the Daredevil Netflix era, where they're actually forced to work together. When they showed the footage of him saying that he crossed a line and that's why he stopped being Daredevil, the mask falling looks like it's actually during the fight at Josie's bar, which I believe is meant to be with Bullseye, who I think shows up in the first couple of episodes, and they explain what's happened to him after the big time jump since the end of Season 3 in the snap. Not totally clear who's carrying this person here on the railroad tracks. This actually might be Muse, based on the look of the beanie that he's wearing, but I'm not sure who he's actually carrying. This might just be him taking someone back to his lair. This person fighting people in the subway is actually meant to be the White Tiger character who Daredevil has to defend in court. In the original version of the show, before they rebooted the reboot itself, that's right, they rebooted Daredevil Born Again and completely redid the show and reshot a bunch of stuff. But in the original version of the show, they were going to do a much longer version of the trial of White Tiger from the comics. I think the idea is that White Tiger is meant to be a more violent vigilante in the city, an example of someone that Daredevil is trying not to be, like he doesn't want to be that violent. And I think this particular scene is how White Tiger winds up getting thrown in prison. Like I think he's trying to protect this guy over on the far left from these two thugs here and accidentally winds up killing one of these people. So it's meant to be an example of like a very, very violent vigilante in the city that people don't like. Another really good example of that would be the Punisher character who we see later in the trailer. When Kingpin talks about Daredevil hating the power inside him, slowly bubbling up to the surface, you see him getting thrown around by a couple criminals in a different room. I think this is actually meant to be during the bank fight when he's actually defending Kamala Khan's father. Little bit of a crossover. I don't think Miss Marvel is going to cameo during the series. I think the idea is that he just happens to be in a bank where Kamala Khan's father works inside the city, and he just commutes there from Jersey City every day. But it is a good example of how they have cameo scenes from other Marvel series and other Marvel movies in the actual Daredevil series itself. We see Bullseye seeming like he's getting out of prison. I think the idea is the minute this happens, he gets out of prison and goes directly after Karen Page to try and finish what he started during Daredevil Season 3, where he was trying to kill Karen Page. Like I said, this might have something to do with him crossing the line, as he says to Kingpin later. This is more of that big bank action scene where he helps save Kamala Khan's father and all the other people at the bank here, taking out these robbers. It kind of seems like after he takes these robbers out, he takes this reg mask and then uses it to take out some other people in broad daylight. And it's just part of him slowly putting the costume back on at the beginning of the series. Love the tagline in the trailer, "The Devil's Work is Never Done." They also start playing the organ version of the Daredevil theme song from the Netflix series for everybody that wanted them to bring that back. Thankfully they did. Hopefully they'll use that for the intro music too. This scene of the fog and the crosswalk here is meant to be a Bullseye coming after Foggy Nelson and Karen Page. I think he's coming after Karen Page and Foggy Nelson just happens to be there with him and Daredevil. We get a better shot of the Muse villain, then we see Vanessa with Kingpin. They brought back the original actress too. There was a schedule problem before they'd rebooted the reboot show, so thankfully them rebooting everything, again for a second time, made it able for her to come. Then we finally see Daredevil going to meet with Punisher, who seems just completely unhinged. Not clear what's happening here, why he's all unhinged, but the way they explain Punisher's storyline in Season 1, there are corrupt cops that are using his Punisher logo and doing all kinds of shady stuff that Punisher is not cool with at all, so he goes after those cops. We got a little footage of Daredevil and Punisher teaming up to fight those cops in the other trailer. My assumption is that Punisher also did not get snapped, and he spent that 5-year time jump just going after the worst of the worst, just like Hawkeye did when he was in full Ronin mode. Then you might recognize this person. It's Michael Gandolfini, James Gandolfini from Sopranos' son in real life, who's become an actor himself. But I don't know who he's playing during the series. Looking at the cars behind him though, this Chevy SUV seems relatively recent model, so I don't think that it's a flashback though, meaning that he is playing some new character, maybe somebody from the Daredevil comics. These bodies hanging up on the hooks here are meant to be Muse's victims inside his lair. White Tiger putting on his vigilante costume from the comics. I believe these cops are the ones that Punisher is going after eventually. I think both of these shots of them on their respective rooftops are also meant to be from episode 1. He talks about believing in retribution, then opens his closet here and you see all the different Daredevil costumes from the comics. This one over on the far left I think is actually meant to be the white one from the comics. The red one next to it I think is actually meant to be from the Daredevil Netflix series. Then the yellow one we actually saw during She-Hulk. And then the one next to it is the black one from the comics, the Back in Black costume. And the one on the far right I think is meant to be from the brand new Daredevil red costume that we see in the trailer. We will see if he wears multiple ones throughout the season, but I think the idea is that they'll save some of these for season 2. Then they end the trailer on a really cool montage of just a whole bunch of real badass takedowns, and that same organ music version of the Daredevil theme song. One of the other cool details in the logo here is that you can actually spot the New York City skyline at the bottom of the logo. The actual Daredevil Born Again title is based on the comic book Daredevil Born Again, but the interesting thing about that comic book is that they used the plot for that for the Daredevil Netflix Season 3, so they've already used the comic book plot for that. But part of the reason why Kevin Feige chose this title for the actual series is because it's meant to be him being born again inside the MCU, even though technically they're canonizing all the Netflix stuff to the MCU. But the way they've talked about the series is basically like Daredevil Season 4, effectively. I know there'll be a ton of questions about when the other Netflix Defenders characters are coming back, like what are they going to do about Iron Fist? There's been all kinds of talk about them recasting or bringing back the original Finn Jones version of Iron Fist. Are they going to do Heroes for Hire? What about Punisher? There has been talk about them doing a new Punisher revival series like Daredevil Born Again, like Punisher Season 3, essentially, at the MCU. Whatever they wind up announcing about that, of course I will do videos, but I'm sure we'll see more of Punisher when we get to Daredevil Born Again Season 2 as well, too. Like, this won't be the only time you see him during Season 1. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up. We'll get more footage for this as we get closer to the actual episodes coming out, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss anything. I just did a much bigger Avengers Doomsday video, click here for that, and click here to learn about the brand new version of Black Panther that Marvel is casting for the next couple of big movies. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.